So short when I first went live. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm gonna give it just a sec here. God, these YouTube lives are so hard to get going. I'm gonna give everyone a sec to join, and I'm actually just gonna share the live to the Facebook group real quick, since sometimes people tell me that they weren't notified. So I'm gonna quickly do that. If you are here and you can hear me, maybe as you're coming in, say hi. Okay, hold on, I'm just gonna quickly share it and then we will get going here. I'm gonna be dermaplaning first, and then we'll do some cosmetic needling. I don't know if I can share it actually. Oh well, okay. I think I'll have to, I don't want to deal with the hassle. Hi Jules. Okay, you can hear me great. Yeah, I was going to share it to the actual live itself to the Facebook group, but I don't think it's worth the hassle, so we're going to leave it. Hi Paulina. I'll try and do that next time. Okay, I'm going to sanitize my hands one more time. I already cleansed my face and my hands with Hibi Cleanse. Because I'm cosmetic needling. Hi Tracy, welcome. Okay, cool. I think it's kind of working. Hi Monica. Okay. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna dermaplane first because it's been, looking in the mirror here, it's been a very long time. I've got some major peach fuzz. What I'm gonna quickly do is I'm just gonna sanitize my roller. It's a brand new roller, so it should be sterile, but I'm just gonna sanitize it so it can dry while we are dermaplaning here. So we're going to do that first. The nice thing about dermaplaning before you cosmetic needle is that it just helps with penetration a little bit. So I'm just going to quickly, like one little annoying baby here. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly use the rubbing alcohol on my face. This is doing it's kind of doing two things here, because it is going to sanitize for the cosmetic needling, but it's also kind of dehydrating the top layer of my skin for that dermaplaning that we're going to do first. Woo! Nothing like rubbing alcohol first thing in the morning. I just use the 70%, just because that's what's actually going to better sanitize. If I was only dermaplaning, you could use like a 90 or 99% because it'll dehydrate the skin faster. But if, you know, I always have the 70% on hand to sanitize anyway, so I just do like an extra layer and it works fine. It just might take a little bit longer since you've got more water content in there. Let me know as you guys are kind of joining. Let me know how you're doing today. How's your Wednesday? I'm gonna try and do like the regular Wednesday thing, I think, with YouTube. I just have to decide like how I want to organize things. Because I like the various platforms I'm on to have kind of like a set theme, so you're not like, okay, why am I on YouTube when she just does the same thing on Instagram? So, you know, I try to do like short form content on Instagram and deep dives on the blog. Hi Krista, welcome, good morning or afternoon if you're on the East Coast, etc. So I wasn't sure if, maybe you guys can let me know, like, do you guys prefer like demos and treatments here on YouTube, or would you rather I do like more like brand reviews and like skincare and ingredients on YouTube? Like, let me know, you know, what your kind of preference is, because I'm kind of stuck on whether I want to do like the microneedling and the meso and all those kind of type treatment stuff here on YouTube, or just kind of keep them to like the actual videos and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Working while watching Evangel. Yeah, I know. Good. I'm glad you could hang out with me. I know it's kind of tricky during the week too. I know a lot of you guys work and have to kind of catch these afterwards. It's just really, yes, demos on YouTube. It's longer, so it's better. Okay. Yeah, so sure you like them on YouTube. And so, yeah, let me know, you guys, like what you prefer. Because I want to do like a weekly YouTube live before we did the brand review. So I'm just kind of trying to decide like what my thing is going to be on these YouTube lives, like demos, treatments, etc. Okay, I'm actually going to clip my hair a little bit better here. I was going to just put it in a ponytail, and I probably should have done that. Okay, so I'm just going to sanitize my hands one more time since I touched my hair. even though we're dermaplaning, so it's not a huge concern right now. Better just to kind of sanitize as we go though. Okay, so I'm gonna open up the scalpel here. If you are a beginner to dermaplaning, you can definitely use like an eyebrow trimmer, right? You know, start baby. The reason I just kind of stick to these though is I've used like the Miss Gorgeous ones without the guard, and I feel like those catch on the skin much more than just using an actual scalpel does, so I kind of stopped messing with those and figured I'm just going to use the scalpel. This should be a number 10. And I'm not going to be going crazy deep. Like if you were to go to an esthetician, you know, you might get this really deep exfoliating treatment. Personally, I'm just doing this to remove like the vellus hair. I just find that my makeup sits better, my skin looks nicer, and then you know, it's going to help with the penetration of the microneedling afterwards. My goal is not a deep treatment. And I'm actually not a huge fan of like these really deep dermaplaning or dermabrasion treatments, as I find they just really disrupt the skin barrier. Then you don't get a lot of significant like anti-aging benefits. So the goal here is just to remove that vellus hair, and then we're going to do the cosmetic microneedling, and I'm going to be using the AnteAge MD solution for that. I haven't used the regular one, and we'll kind of, once we start, we get into that, we can chat about like growth factors and the difference between the MD and the regular and AnteAge versus like Bradzeuticals and other brands. So we'll definitely chat about that. And let me know. God, it's been so long since I dermaplaned. I feel like I'm like out of practice here. Oh, I'm gonna grab a little, so I like to have a little gauze pad here just to kind of like wipe any little vellus hairs as I'm kind of going here, because you'll find if it's been a while, there's gonna be a lot of like dead skin cells and fluff. So I hold the blade like almost even with the skin, and I just do light little flickering strokes upwards. Again, I'm not trying to go really deep. I'm just trying to kind of get that vellus hair. I hope this doesn't, I was like, if I do this live, it might be a little bit boring. So I'm going to try and kind of do it quickly. Maybe let me know while I'm chatting. Maybe we can talk about, if you guys have any questions about growth factors or dermaplaning or cosmetic microneedling, maybe we can do that while I do this part, since this is kind of like the slow part. I'll try to not get behind here. So I like to do like the flickerings, like the shorter strokes instead of like the big long scraping strokes, as I just find that it's just a little bit less irritating and you're less likely to kind of slip and cut yourself. And if you're doing this and you notice the blade catching, you might need to go back in with more alcohol. You really want your skin to be nice and dehydrated so it doesn't catch. And this is also the rare time that I will use like a foaming cleanser first. Hibi Cleanse is fine, or like the Regimen Labs one. Something that's not going to leave a lot of like emollient type ingredients. I think I need to go over one more time here. And then I do want to do a dedicated video on, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I have the Velatox here. I'm really excited about that one. I've been testing it out. It is for microneedling. Technically you can meso it. I just find that it has a lot of ingredients for meso. I like to be very conservative with mesotherapy. I just started doing this to myself fairly recently and have gone down with the blade. Is there a preference, or is it just personal? You're fine to start going down when you start. I find that I get a slightly deeper exfoliation, and I kind of get those vellus hairs a little bit better when I go upwards against kind of the hair, but you are totally fine to start going downwards. Especially if you're nervous and you're not sure how your skin is going to respond to. Okay, so I'm just going over because it just felt like my skin wasn't quite dehydrated enough. That's the only downfall with the 70%, it's just they have more water content in them. All right. I also will use the dermaplaning treatment to kind of clean up the brows on top here. Just be careful so you don't end up with half your brow missing. I feel like it's been so long since I've done the dermaplaning that I'm like out of practice. I remember when I was starting with microcurrent, believe it or not, well, you could probably believe it if you've seen me dropping stuff during lives. I'm kind of klutzy. Like, I don't have the best hand-eye coordination with stuff like this. It just goes missing. Yeah, you don't want to be cut off half your dang brow. I've had an accident like that before. It wasn't from dermaplaning, but I think I tweezed too much or something, and it looked awful. And you have to wait. You have to fill it in. It was like it was the front. What was I doing? I think I was just regular shaving my face. This was back when before I actually dermaplaned. I shaved the front. I had to fill it in with a pencil until it grew in, and it was not fun, to say the least. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a klutz. Like, I'm not super, or like my hand-eye coordination isn't always the best with stuff like this. Okay, I'm sure this is probably in the guides, but is there a recommendation for blade to use while dermaplaning at home? I visit the esthetician and love the effects. So you kind of just want to work your way up and get comfortable. Like, get the cheapy like eyebrow trimmers with the guide. I think I have. Hi Melinda, welcome. You know, just get the cheapy ones with the guide. I should have some linked in the my Amazon storefront. Like, just go really easy. You want to get the motion. If you're disorganized, I'm disorganized too, honestly. If you're what's the word I'm looking for? If you're just klutzy like me, then you just want to start baby. Like, get something with the guard that's just gonna remove the vellus hair. It's not really gonna give you like an exfoliation. Start there, kind of get the steps down, kind of the process. Tracy said my daughter shaved the front of her brow when she was young and never grew back. Yeah, I have like a little spot on top of this brow that I think was waxed or something when my mom took me when I was really young, and it never grew back either. And I used to have really thick brows, and they've never recovered since my mom took me either. And then so back to the dermaplaning, after you get that eyebrow trimmer, you know, get really comfortable with like the brow trimmers. Then you can move up to something without the guard if you want, like the Miss Gorgeous ones. I just find that those are really sharp too, like a scalpel, but they kind of scrape on the skin. So personally, I just kind of switch. Like, I don't even know if I necessarily recommend going to the Miss Gorgeous ones first, because I just find they really catch and really scrape your face. So like, while of course you need to be incredibly careful with a scalpel, and again, I'm not doing like a deep exfoliation, like I'm being very superficial compared to like in office. I just find like this, because it's so sharp, you don't get that scraping that I got with those Miss Gorgeous ones. So, and good, I'm glad someone mentioned, I think it was Krista, that she was a little bit klutzy too. Yeah, it just goes to show that like you can have the knowledge and then you can be a complete klutz. Like with microcurrent, I remember especially I struggled with the prongs, like especially the myolith prongs. Like, just like I still struggle a little bit just having two separate things and you're trying to look at your face in the mirror. I've always struggled with that big time, just with the coordination part of that. So I'm just holding the skin taut and then light flicking motions. I'm really not trying to exfoliate that much. I just want to get all those little vellus hairs that seems like the timing hasn't been right. Anytime I've wanted to dermaplane, first we did that red carpet peel, so I didn't want to dermaplane anywhere near that. Just because when your skin is already kind of compromised, the last thing you want to do is go in and remove added protection. So I kind of waited, and then it just seemed like my skin was either sensitive or I was doing some kind of treatment, and it didn't really work out. So finally I decided, I was like, if I put it on the live, if I put that I'm gonna dermaplane, then I have to. So you guys are kind of helping motivate me. Okay, so I'm just kind of cleaning up the brow area. The one thing I will say too is be careful not to, don't get too much of the baby hairs. I've done that before where I've we all have those little baby hairs that kind of frame the face. I've done that, don't mind the siren. I've gone in and gotten all of those before, and it looks really weird. Like, it makes your forehead look really big, just because I think like if you especially like the, what's this part called? Like so you can tell I'm not a guy, but like your sideburn area here and like these baby hairs, if you like go all the way up to the hairline, it just doesn't look right. So I try to kind of leave this area alone, because once you've done it, you'll kind of know what I mean. It can look a little bit funny. I'm kind of like, my skin is not dehydrated enough. I think it's just because I hydrate so intensely that it's actually really hard to dehydrate it properly sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to switch hands here. If you have sun damage too on that forehead area, you'll notice that the skin texture, not that I don't have that much, like my dad has. Okay, I think it's back. Okay, so just gonna clean up the brow here and then get this left cheek, and then we'll start the microneedling. Just try to kind of carefully get those little hairs. Let me know if it's back, you guys. I got like a random telemarketer call and shut off the live. Just trying to clean up the brow. Okay, so I'm gonna do this side, I'm gonna do like this upper lip area, and then we'll call it good. Because I don't want you guys to have to, it's back. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was like a random telemarketer call. I feel like I always get those during the live. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna do this as quickly as possible because I feel like it's boring for you guys to watch. And then we'll get into the microneedling. Let me know in the comments too if you guys have tried Ceuticals or AnteAge, or if you use growth factors with your microneedling. I thought it might be fun to do like an explanation on like what growth factors are and like why you would want to use them with microneedling, maybe the difference between, you know, like the brands and stuff. So let me know, you know, what your kind of experience is. I find that they make a huge difference in my microneedling treatments. Like I added, Lucy uses the Ceuticals, Tracy likes the Ceuticals. Yeah, I think that AnteAge, you know, was the first to really use the bone marrow stem cells for aesthetic purposes. They've actually been in the medical field for years. So I give them major props for that. I do think too that they are really good about just using like really high quality stem cells when they culture them. You know, I was kind of, if there's, I'll try to post the article. Paulina's tried the Ceuticals. Monica doesn't microneedle, but she uses the AnteAge MD, but also Ceuticals. Cool. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I was reading this really interesting article that I'll try to post to the Facebook group if I remember, just talking about how bone marrow stem cells are some of the few stem cells that technically like age. So, you know, so you don't want to necessarily culture bone marrow stem cells that are like from an older person. So I like that AnteAge uses like really young adults. Or like the Celltermi uses the umbilical stem cells. Some people, you know, feel a little bit conflicted about using those, but those are going to be, you know, for that reason, they're brand new. Like they're from, you know, the umbilical cord of a newborn. So, you know, that's kind of interesting too. So, you know, you do want to be careful about the source. I also think that, you know, if you are someone who doesn't microneedle, AnteAge can be beneficial because they encapsulate all their growth factors to kind of better get them into the skin, where Ceuticals, you know, technically doesn't do that. So for me, like I'm cosmetic needling, I'm nano needling, I use devices, so it's, for me, like Ceuticals is totally fine because I use all those tools to get those large molecules into the skin. But for someone who doesn't do that, I nano when using, yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's great, Monica. Yeah, exactly. But for someone, you know, who maybe doesn't do that, that's when the AnteAge can be, you know, maybe worthwhile, even though it's pretty pricey. I should probably not talk while I do the upper lip. I feel so out of practice doing this. Maybe it's just also like the angle. Does Ceuticals use? I know that they go through a really reputable US-based biotech company that really carefully screens their donors. I don't have as much specific information as I do on AnteAge, so I'll try to follow up with Twee, the owner. But I do know that they go through a US-based biotech company, which is really important. You want to, you know, make sure that these stem cells are from a reputable source that have been screened. You know, they're making sure that these are healthy donors. I just don't have the specific data on the exact age. The other thing too is Broadceuticals is obviously a smaller brand, so they're not going to have, like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars to do the oncology testing that like Osmosis and AnteAge have. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're not safe if you have skin cancer or something like that, but you know, if you have that history or you know it runs in your family, then you know the added kind of peace of mind with AnteAge might be helpful too, which as far as the oncology testing. I feel like I'm distractedly dermaplaning today. Okay, I'm gonna do this other side of the lip and then I'll kind of peek in the mirror and see. I suspect I missed a lot. It's okay though, I can always clean it up later. I just don't want it to be like super boring for you guys to watch. Okay, I'm gonna do the other side. Okay, that was probably the sloppiest dermaplaning I've done. Let's see what I've missed, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, I'm just gonna do the bridge of the nose and then we gotta move on. I'll clean it up later. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a very boring live. Okay, yeah, we're gonna call it good. Obviously, if it was just me, I would do it a little bit more. I would take more time and kind of just be a little bit more, spend more time on it. Long story short, but I just don't want you guys to just feel bad when it's like the same thing for the whole live. Okay, so I'm gonna sanitize my hands again. And then I am cosmetic needling, right? So that means that, you know, I've taken sanitary precautions, right? I put my hair out of the way. I washed my face and my hands with Hibiclens, as I mentioned earlier. You know, I'm sanitizing my hands. I do have a little sanitary workspace. So I took a Lysol wipe and I kind of cleaned my space, and then I put the dental bibs down, you know, keeping, like, I have a sanitary area in front of me. This is a brand new 0.3 millimeter derma roller that I've sanitized just now while we were waiting. So, you know, like, there's sanitation here, but I'm not, like, wearing exam gloves because I'm not medical needling, right? I'm not using just like the sterile HA and saline because, again, I'm not medical needling. Just to kind of point that out, I am going to go ahead. Sorry, the train is passing. If I was medical needling, again, I would use the exam gloves. I would actually still, technically you don't have to use something like Hibiclens prior, but I do to cosmetic needling, so that could technically just be for medical needling. But I tend to feel like in a home environment, if you could be safer, you should. Okay, so this should be all dry by now. So again, this is a brand new one. This is the same one. This is the Angel Kiss one, by the way. But the one that you get with the AnteAge is the same exact derma roller, just because they're private labeled. If you're gonna derma roll versus like using a pen, pick something that has, I don't know if you can kind of see, this has individual needles that go all the way down into the barrel of the roller, versus having like those stacked metal discs that I do find, sorry, the train, create a lot more trauma. The other thing is that this has the stainless steel needles. Those are good. They found those to be, while not quite as like tough as titanium, they found them to be more sanitary. And then just to be safe here, I'm just gonna go over and sanitize one more time, even though the scalpel was technically sanitized. You know, better safe than sorry. Make sure that any little baby hairs are out of the way. I don't know why I always forget the headband. I think it's just because I have like chaotic morning energy. Is anyone else like that? Like, if you catch me like in the afternoon, I've got my life together. The first like couple hours though, of the day, I am a complete wreck. I'm sanitizing my hand where I just had to touch the screen. Sorry you guys, I don't know what the deal is with YouTube lives. They just freeze for a really long time. Alright, let me know if we're back, you guys. I had started microneedling and then it didn't unfreeze for a really long time, so. Okay, so I am just putting some channels down. This is a 0.3, so we can use this for infusion. I will do the different kind of vertical and horizontal passes just to make sure I get everything, but I'm not necessarily working. Thanks, Lucy. I feel like the YouTube lives are a little bit of a struggle. Thanks you guys for hanging in with me. So I do the different passes just to kind of vary it up and make sure that I'm evenly treating everything, but I'm not necessarily worrying too much about the number. I try to kind of look for more of an even redness, just because I find a lot of the research, microneedling is just indicating that we tend to really over treat. There's like this annoying baby here. We tend to really over treat the skin, and it's not necessary. Just go over any areas that are not evenly red. Okay, so I'm using the AnteAge MD. I wish it wasn't in a roller, as I feel like that's not the most sanitary. Even though these are designed for microneedling, I just feel like that's not sanitary. But luckily, so I probably won't reuse this one again. I'll make sure to use it all up. Maybe I can get it open afterwards and put the rest on my skin. So with a derma roller, you do not need glide, so you don't have to put anything down before. If you're really dry, you can, if you just find that makes your skin feel better, but it's not a must. And I like to, instead of doing my whole face and then putting the serum down, I like to do a section at a time, as for cosmetic needling, those holes close really quickly. Yeah, I don't like the rollers on these. I like to be able just to use like a little silicone spatula and like get all that product out. I wish there was a way to like pop this off. It's gonna take forever. Well, I'll try to pop it off after the live and kind of just get this all on. That's fine for now, I guess. Okay, so this is the MD one, which I think Monica had mentioned trying. And the difference between the MD and the regular line is the addition of the TGF beta. So TGF beta is a growth factor. If you guys remember, like from other kind of growth factor type content, growth factors are little signaling molecules, like little signaling peptides that, basically they act as little messengers. And as far as microneedling goes, they are a really important part of the wound healing cascade. So as soon as something like penetrates the skin, it kind of causes a release of interleukin, which is a type of cytokine or growth factor, and this kind of kicks off the whole wound healing cascade and the whole process of wound healing. So we have like an inflammatory stage, we have a proliferative stage, we have the skin remodeling that kind of happens afterwards. The growth factors are interesting because they all have to kind of work together. They each have a specific set of instructions and they all kind of work in their own little area. So like you wouldn't want to use just EGF because you would never see EGF by itself. So sometimes you think of like an EGF serum. So that's why I like the stem cell conditioned media, like AnteAge Pharmaceuticals, because you get a nice array. You're basically kind of mimicking the microneedling process, which stimulates that release of growth factors. and then we're just adding them topically as well to kind of accelerate that process. So TGF beta though is really interesting because it's really essential for collagen. So it helps stimulate the fibroblasts to create collagen. Fibroblasts also create hyaluronic acid and elastin in the skin. It also helps like in the epidermis forming new skin cells, proliferation. So it's a really important growth factor, a really important molecule. You do have to be, hi Joe, welcome. You, I think, missed the usual YouTube hiccups. You're such a pain in the butt. Hope you're having a good day. Start out with regular AnteAge, but prefer MMD, finishing off the rest. Yeah, I think if you are gonna take the time to splurge on the AnteAge, like the MD is worth it, right? Like if you're already gonna be spending the money, like you might as well get the MD in that TGF beta one, because I do think that really is what makes it stand out compared to like the Bradzuticals. So I think if you're gonna spend the money, try to get the MD. I will say though that you want to be careful. I like to use the TGF beta like in the early stages. They have found that too much TGF beta later on in the healing process can mess with things, because you don't, hi Joanna, welcome. I'm glad you could stop by. I know with the UK timing it's always a little bit tricky. Hope you're having a good week. Sorry, distracted. Me and like doing something with my hands while trying to talk never works out. I was just saying though that too much TGF beta isn't a good thing. They have found that if you have too much later in the wound healing process, that's when you can get scar formation. And they actually use antibodies to inhibit TGF beta to stop scarring, basically. So I like to only use this like this, the same day. You're giving us glass camera. Aw, thank you, Joe. I was just laughing and saying that like mornings are like I'm not functional until afternoon. Some people are more like my son's a total morning person. Me, no. Is MD safe to use long term? Yeah, I just would be careful with the timing, basically. Just because like there's a reason they use those antibodies to inhibit, that too much. Like the inflammation, like that inflammatory stage, and like that all this, everything that kind of triggers the wound healing cascade and the release of growth factors, like those are all good things, but then you need it to stop at a certain point, right? You don't want to continue making collagen because that can lead to scarring and kind of unwanted, like it needs to have a stopping point, basically. Like it becomes too much of something isn't necessarily a good thing. So that's why I like to use the MD in the early stages. Joe said he's a night. Yeah, I used to be a major night owl as well. I have a kid, so that just like doesn't work anymore. You hear licking, that's the puppy. It sounds a little bit funky. Okay, so I've probably been talking too long and put down too many channels, so I'm gonna go in with the serum here. Yeah, I used to be like, I tried to put it on with a cap. Goodness, Mira. Especially like in high school, like I would stay up until like 4 in the morning. Just because I felt like it was easier to like take a nap before school and then go and then wake up versus having to fall asleep and try to get up. I've definitely always been more awake at night. And then I worked night shift for a couple of years when I was younger. But then with a kid like that, you can't do that. Like you will burn out if you try to keep the night owl thing. So it's gotten a little bit better. Like now I'm much better about going to bed on time. And being somewhat productive when I get back from dropping them off. Okay, I have to hold my face like this to get all the, see, there we go. Now it's starting to come out. I'm gonna try and like see if I can pop these open, because every time I use the little roller, I'm just annoyed. Okay. 5 million years later. Okay, I'm gonna do the other side here. And you guys maybe you guys have watched like some of the debate that's happened between some of the growth factor brands. Like, you know, basically they all understandably think that they sell the best product. Like, there's been plenty of, you know, just videos. Like a little itch, so I'm using a sanitary pad, so I don't have to use my hand. You know, there's just been a lot of like back and forth between like the Neogenesis CEO. I still have an itch. And like the doctors behind AnteAge, and the Neogenesis CEO says, you know, bone marrow stem cell conditioned media is terrible, and the AnteAge says that the adipose stem cell conditioned media is awful. You know, it's just a bunch of drama, surprisingly. I think for me, like, I always try to bring it back to the research. And, you know, bone marrow stem cell conditioned media has been used in the medical field for decades. Adipose stem cell conditioned media is relatively newer in comparison. I don't know if I buy into the idea that like inflammatory cytokines are inherently bad. Monica said, how often can you derma roll with the AnteAge solution? So there's different, you know, you're gonna hear different recommendations, right? Like Dr. Sutterfield says you can cosmetic needle every day. Personally, for me, I just think that's a little bit too much. You know, having done like that course on corneotherapy, like I'm a big believer in minimizing disruption to the skin barrier. And even though, you know, cosmetic needling channels heal really quickly, you're staying in the epidermis, like daily is just a little bit too much for me personally. So I think 1 to 2 times a week is a great place to start, and then you can kind of go from there. You know, cosmetic needling is one of those things where, like, I think it's really promising, but the research hasn't necessarily caught up yet. You know, it's cool. I mean, we know from like research on burn patients that trauma in the epidermis of the skin, even like micro trauma, of course, you know, can actually influence the dermis. So the skin cells in the epidermis, or the top layer of the skin, the keratinocytes, can actually help regulate those fibroblasts we talked about earlier, and can kind of tell them to make, you know, more collagen over time. And this might be why like glycolic acid works, for example. Like glycolic acid doesn't get into the dermis, yet it can still trigger formation of collagen, right? So, you know, I think it has a lot to do with those keratinocytes and them, you know, kind of helping regulate those dermal fibroblasts to make more collagen and elastin. You know, cosmetic needling also doesn't have that like inflammatory phase. So it's, you know, there's a lot less trauma, a lot less risk of complications, and you still get like the release of all those growth factors and stuff too. So I think that cosmetic needling is really promising, and then you also have the added, you know, ability to infuse serums in there, which you really don't want to do with medical needling. So you can use your growth factors. And I personally kind of like to use copper peptides after, but you could use them to infuse kind of peptides and stuff that may normally be able to get into the skin. So I think that cosmetic needling is underhyped, but needs more research, essentially. I will say that between nanoneedling and cosmetic needling, I would pick cosmetic needling any day. Though the the Epic Skin Tool from Osmosis has been kind of a game changer in that regard, just because it makes cosmetic or nanoneedling so much easier to do. Okay, so I'm going to go back over any areas that aren't red. I think I've been chatting and kind of going on missing some areas, which tends to happen every time. As a kind of a reminder, I'm not pressing. If you press on the roller, you're going to change the depth, and you can really easily end up in the dermis. Like, the point of this treatment is to stay in the epidermis, the top layer of the skin, but the epidermis is super thin. It's like 0.1 millimeters or something. I think it might be even thinner. Again, I probably need more coffee. So and this is a 0.3 millimeter needle depth, right? So if you press that, you're going to get into the epidermis, or into the dermis. Is there any evidence that contraindicates cosmetic needling in melazit? No, there should not be. The nice thing about cosmetic microneedling is that, again, you don't have all that inflammation, and in Skin of Color, they've really linked inflammation with, you know, the melanocytes, those little skin cells that make pigment in the skin, basically, they're really sensitive. And they're especially sensitive in Skin of Color. It's actually a protective thing, right? Like they're gonna darken. Sorry, there's construction going on always. So it's actually to protect your skin. It's technically a good thing, but they're very sensitive to inflammation, to oxidative stress from, you know, environmental factors. So you're gonna get that darkening, you know, if you have too much inflammation in the skin, basically, and then more so for Skin of Color. So the nice thing about cosmetic needling is you don't have all the inflammation. You're not getting into dermis. You don't have, you know, like that risk of of bleeding. So that's the nice thing about it. It's going to be safer for hyperpigmentation and melasma, and you have the added benefit of combining it with a pigment inhibitor, which is really key. So you can use like a tranexamic acid or something like that to further, and you can pre-treat the skin too. I recommend this all the time, like with chemical peels and microneedling, is before the treatment to use a pigment inhibitor as well. So you can pre-treat as well. And I want to do, I want to do a Velatox video. I also have the Celltermi Pure here. Oops, I think I missed something. Okay, I'll scroll up here. I'll grab a little. Scroll up, and then I'll sanitize my finger here. Okay, I got about 20 to 30 nano cartridges, used once, then did cosmetic. Now I don't want to. Yeah, I totally get it, Lucy. I'm the same. Just because I feel like it's such a hassle. I'm sanitizing my hand where I touch the screen. It's just such a hassle to like get your pen out and get the cartridges, and then my skin actually gets really irritated from those nanoneedling cartridges. So I'm like, nanoneedling is only infusing. I don't get those added benefits of cosmetic needling, so I always end up feeling like I might as well cosmetic needle. And then I switched to doing the roller for cosmetic needling only, and it's so much less of a hassle. I do pull out my pen for medical needling, but I love the roller for cosmetic needling. And then the Epic Skin Tool for nano is such a game changer because it's so much less hassle, so much less irritation, and I actually use it on days when I'm not cosmetic needling, so it's really nice. Okay, so I sanitize my hand. Okay, so I'm going to do a video on the Velatox soon because it's great. You have a treatment ampule. I'm going to chat while I get any little areas that aren't red. So you have a treatment ampule, which has the growth factors in it to enhance the treatment itself. But then you also have a post-treatment ampule, and this has copper peptides, which are great for after for wound healing. And then it also has like tranexamic acid and kind of pigment inhibitors, just to ensure that during the healing phase, you don't get any like hyperpigmentation or anything like that. So I'm really excited about the Velatox because I think it's really well designed. But then also too, there is the Celltermi, which is, I don't know if you can see on the shelf here. So you have like the powders, the stem and the growth factor complex, which you can mix into a base like the Regen and the Pure. Those are nice because you can kind of cocktail based on your concerns. Like you can use the Pure, which has the tranexamic acid if you have hyperpigmentation. Do you have any Yeah, so it's in the Velatox and it's in the Celltermi Pure. And I like those because you don't have a bunch of gunk. Like, I know like the deer skin, like the queen, like I know those are really popular for like topically, and I think those are totally fine topically, but there's a lot of irritating ingredients and preservatives and all these added ingredients that make me a little bit nervous to suggest using them with even just cosmetic needling. So that's why I prefer the other ones. The ones I mentioned up here, because they're designed, they're sterile, and they're really designed for meso and microneedling. Okay, so I'm sure this was a very my poor face. I feel like this is a very uneven treatment because I've been talking and I'm just as uncoordinated as ever, but that's okay. Okay, and then I don't do my neck a ton anymore just because it's so gosh darn sensitive. And then I also, again, with like the puppy, he's always kind of like scratching, pawing at me. So I will do like underneath the jawline, but then I don't. And then sometimes I'll do like this necklace line right here, but that's about it, just because I find like the irritation is never worth it. I bought Velatox during last sale when you recommended it. I mean, need to get a second box for my husband. Yeah, I'm still in the testing process, as I've mentioned, I think before, but I've been really excited. But I just think it's really, I'd like to see something like that that's like well thought out, right? Like sometimes you just kind of have products that are a little bit like haphazard, right? Like just like EGF, you know? I always like to see something like that where they've really thought it through. How long before you give us an update on the MD is the only one that I'm still testing. But I can, I do like the regular solution for microneedling. Maybe I can do like a whole video comparing like the AnteAge line to Braceuticals if you guys want, and other brands. Let me know if that would be of interest. Okay, so I'm gonna get into my jawline talk here. But yeah, just the MD that I need to use further. I like that it's really stripped down for microneedling. I didn't know you could use anything but HA for cosmetic. So medical needling is where you just want to use the HA and or sterile saline. Cosmetic needling, you have a little bit more flexibility, but I'm not as like relaxed about it as some people. Like some people just use whatever kind of topicals. I do try to be very selective in what I'm using. I don't want anything with fragrance, with alcohol, with like a ton of preservatives and a ton of other ingredients. I don't like anything with emollients in it, like oils. Like I do tend to prefer like a more stripped down formula, and I have been getting a lot into like these meso ampules for cosmetic needling that have those added ingredients, but it's in a sterile, very simple formula. Just because when you drive something into the skin, when you create these microchannels, you're giving them like these ingredients a free pass into the skin, where the skin barrier is really designed to protect the skin, not just against like pathogens, but like irritants and sensitizing kind of ingredients. So if you just kind of drive them right into the skin, it can be really irritating if it's the wrong ingredient. Just doing under the jaw and like this little necklace line that I have right here. And I'm gonna try and tilt my head out so I can use this little annoying roller thing. I hate these. Paulina, I think, said she wanted, yeah, I would be totally down to do a comparison. And because I think there's so much drama between these freaking growth factor brands, not Braceuticals, but like, there was that whole back and forth between, I should have put my hair up. There we go. I don't like to like touch my hand with my hair with my finger and then touch like the skin, so I get like a little bit anal about it. There we go. I should just put my dang hair up. Like there was just that back and forth between like the doctors behind AnteAge and then the Neogenesis, and then I did notice, I think we've talked about this in the group, but the Neogenesis CEO not only did an interview, which is fine, but he did like an actual published article slamming AnteAge, which is like kind of a big no-no in the kind of medical community. Like you don't, as if you're a CEO of a company, you're supposed to disclose any bias, but you're also supposed to do your best to, eliminate bias. And you definitely shouldn't use like a published article to slam a competitor. Like this is a published scientific article competitioning about, yeah, it's like growth factor drama. I'll send you the link to show it. You're gonna be like, what? Like you don't use a published article to slam a competitor. Like that is really, honestly, unethical. So they basically used it to call out AnteAge, and then AnteAge came back they did a whole blog post on their blog, Barefaced Truth, and just came at them pretty hard. Basically, I mean, they didn't even do it personally. They just kind of explained, I guess like an organization and like a panel of experts refuted the article from Neogenesis, basically covering all the ways in which it was misleading and incorrect and biased, which was like kind of a death blow, I think, to the article. So it's just kind of interesting. You know, I just think it goes to show that you have to be, you know, when you're getting your information from a source, like you have to be really, you know, considerate of bias. Like if someone is the CEO of a company, then, you know, like they're probably not going to be the best place for information, right? Like, you know, they're going to say their product is the best, and a lot of their claims are going to be basically marketing. So I think it is really good to always check against the research. You know, especially some of these brands, like there's some pretty wild claims from like Truth Treatments. I like these brands too. Like I really enjoy Truth Treatments. I enjoy some things from Osmosis. I like the Neogenesis Mist, but some of these claims are kind of out there. So I think it's just good to remember that like a CEO of a company is gonna have bias. Cho said, I'm glad they defended. Yeah, it was, you know, and AnteAge has definitely talked about adipose conditioned media, which is the main type in the Neogenesis. They definitely said on their blog that they don't like it, right? So to be fair. But they also didn't like particularly call out a specific brand. They just talked about the ingredient in general. So I tend to kind of appreciate AnteAge's kind of perspective a little bit more. And the Neogenesis, also the CEO, like attacked the credibility of the doctors behind AnteAge, of basically saying that they don't know anything because they're just stem cell doctors and blah blah. I think ultimately though, the big thing is it just makes it really confusing for the person just trying to pick up a darn growth factor serum. Like, what on earth? What do I pick? I think it's good to go back to the research, and you know, the bone marrow is what's been used for a really long time in the medical field first. Though there is a couple studies on the umbilical stem cell ones with microneedling that's really promising, which is why I've been liking the Celltermi as well. Okay, I'm trying to get every little drop out of this thing. Otherwise, I think we're pretty much done here. I'll probably go over, once I get the rest of this out, I will probably go over it one more time just to make sure I really get any last little bit of this serum into the skin, because it is pricey. That's the only thing too, I think, with AnteAge is it's really expensive, and I think it is out of budget for many people. So I think that if I do a video, I'll cover like who you know, it might be worth splurging on, and who might be fine just kind of going with the Bradseuticals. Okay, so post-care, I am going to use my red light lamp, which is right here. And then I'm also going to do like a little sheet mask. I think the PLLA sheet mask. Aside from that though, I'll just kind of do my regular routine tonight with tretinoin and azelaic acid, and probably use the AnteAge serums, and that'll be it. Cosmetic needling. I've been rubbing forever. I'm not even halfway done. Like, there has to be a way to pop this off, right? Because I'm not going to use, I wouldn't feel comfortable. That's the other thing too, is like I wouldn't feel comfortable using this again. I'm assuming it's so patients can kind of take them home afterwards, like whatever's left in here you would send home with the patient. I just wish I could pop it off. Just slather it on my face. Okay, you guys, unless there's not any more questions, I will probably wrap it up here, since I feel like this is probably not necessary to watch me try to get every little bit out of here. But what I will do, I think next Wednesday, is I'll do the Velatox video. I also have a cosmetic needling, well, it can be used for medical needling too, but I have a microneedling device that I really want to test. It's called the TikTok. It's from Korea. Thank you, Troy. I feel like, alright, I'm forcing myself to get in a regular habit. I'm very fortunate that one of my dermatologists, is kind enough to sell at her cost. Oh yeah, that's nice, Monica. That makes it much more reasonable. I think it's like $18 each or something at cost, or yeah, that makes it much more worthwhile. Yeah, I think at full, I mean, you can get this at Skin Beautiful RX. I think the discount code should work. So like MIRA10 should be 20% off. But like, again, I don't think everyone, absolutely everyone, needs to splurge on the AnteAge. All, you know, I think it's for someone who maybe isn't using treatments. It's going to help drive it to the skin. You know, and maybe someone who can get the MD and kind of benefit from the TGF beta during your treatments. Yeah, so I think it's, you know, I don't think everyone needs to splurge. I do think it's great, and I do have a lot of respect for the doctors behind AnteAge and kind of the research and stuff. Okay, the last thing I was going to say before we kind of wrap up the live, okay, we're getting there, we're getting there. There is a Korean microneedling device called the TikTok that I want to test. I'm hoping I'll have it in time for next Wednesday. The reason I want to test this is because it's Korean, and the Korean microneedling devices tend to be better quality than like some of the Chinese ones, like the Dr. Pen. They tend to have better motors, and they just have a really good reputation in the industry. The TikTok is also kind of unique in that it's designed to be used on yourself. Like the head, you can use it kind of upright, and the head kind of is turned so that it's designed for like someone, you know, doing the treatment on themselves versus having to hold it downwards like on a patient. So it's designed for someone to use on themselves. It does have red light therapy. Yes, I will at the end, Paulina, thank you. Yeah, I'll cover it before we end the live officially. The post care. So it does have red light, but I tend to kind of discount red light on a little device like that. I just don't think it's going to be strong enough. But you know, the draw for me was that it's literally designed to be used on yourself, which I think is really going to be a lot more user friendly, in addition to being, you know, Korean. So they tend to have a really good motor and just tend to be better quality and really, again, have a good reputation in the industry. It also only goes up to, it's 0.75 if you take off the guard, otherwise it's 0.25 and 0.5. So I think it potentially could be perfect as like a home microneedling device. I just find with the Dr. Pens, they can create a little bit too much trauma, and they also tend to go deeper than they're supposed to. That's an issue that we see a lot with those, where the depth isn't very accurate. You know, and just kind of, they can be kind of inconsistent throughout the line. Almost got the last of it out. So anyway, I thought it would be cool, but let me know, maybe I'll do like half of my face with like the Dr. Pen A7 and half with the TikTok, if that would be like maybe more helpful. I'm hoping I'll have it in time for next Wednesday. Almost done, almost done. I think I got almost every last little drip out of this. Maybe I'll save a little bit and just do a little bit at nighttime too, if there's anything left in here. Oh my god. There's like 2 drips left. Okay, so then we'll cover post care. But let me know, yeah, let me know if there would be interest in that. I just like that, one, it's designed for self-use, and then it doesn't go super deep, because a lot of people buy like the Dr. Pen and they see that it goes to like 0.25 and they think that that's a good idea, when there's no evidence to suggest that that is necessary at all. But I also like that you can just like point it at yourself. Like sometimes it's hard to get the angle right. And if you've ever used the Dr. Pen, you know that if you don't keep it tipped down, you will get solution up into the cartridge, and it makes the most annoying sound while you're microneedling. I mean, it doesn't, you know, harm anything, but it's just annoying. Okay, I think we got it. I hate these. These are so annoying. Okay, there's like 2 drips left that I'll use tonight because I want to get every dollar out of this because it's expensive. Okay, so I'm going to just go over really quickly just to kind of drive whatever little serum was in there, and then we'll do post-care, and then I'm going to wrap up the live because I think I've taken enough of your time on a Wednesday, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. So I will also link, once this closes, I will link my Amazon store and Skin Beautiful RX in the description, as that is where you can get everything I used here. Pretty much everything is in the Amazon store. So, oh my god, that's a lot of it's a lot of alcohol swabs. Okay, so post-care. Well, first and foremost, I am going to use a denture cleaning tab when I get off this live and soak this for 30 minutes. Make sure it's not only sanitized, but I break down all those little skin proteins on here. So this will soak, and so it's nice and ready for next time. I personally like to discard these after 4 to 6 uses. You know, they're only like 12 bucks, and you know, you're just gonna create a lot less. Like if you look at pictures of like hypodermic needles that have been used 3 to 6 times, they begin to hook. So when you have like actual individual needles like this, and you're using this for 3 months, 6 months, those needles are gonna be, they're not gonna be sharp anymore, and they're gonna create a lot more trauma, potentially, like, you know, just also collect bacteria, etc. So I use these guys for 4 to 6 uses, and I use the denture cleaning tabs after I use them to break down those skin proteins and sanitize and clean. And I'll usually sanitize again right before use. For post-care, again, this is cosmetic microneedling, so within the next hour, these channels are going to be closed pretty much. And I do find that the growth factors with it even accelerates that healing time even further. So I'm going to, right now, the serum's pretty much soaked in, so I'm going to do my red light therapy really quick. It takes about 5 minutes with the red Medo. Red light therapy has a really strong anti-inflammatory effect. So again, inflammation is a good thing in small levels. It's only those excess levels that kind of can create complications like hyperpigmentation or like the risk of scarring, right? So I like to use this as an anti-inflammatory benefit. It also kind of activates the stem cells and helps with wound healing. So it's really great post-cosmetic needling, post-medical needling. And then I'm gonna leave my skin alone and let it kind of soak in all those growth factors until I get to my nighttime routine. Of course, if I go outside, I'm gonna put on a mineral sunscreen or something like that. So tonight, treatment-wise, I'm going to do my regular routine, lots of hydration, anti-inflammatory ingredients. I'm going to skip glycolic acid or salicylic acid, anything exfoliating or irritating, as that's just not necessary. But I will use my growth factors. I'll use whatever's left in here and probably the AnteAge serums over there. I will also use a copper peptide. I would normally use that, like, if you're medical needling, you can wait a couple days. Again, cosmetic needling, the channel's closed so fast, so I'll use a copper peptide tonight along with my growth factor. I will personally be using tretinoin because I have really tough skin, and I see an incredible benefit with retinoids post microneedling. So I'm going to use Tret. If you are more sensitive or if you're newer to microneedling, you could wait till tomorrow to do the Tret, or you could use like a retinol or retinaldehyde. I also do tend to use a vitamin C that isn't an ascorbic acid. So again, this is cosmetic needling, the channels will be closed, so I will use something like the Mugu vitamin C and squalene, which is an oil-soluble derivative, or you can even use something like the Truth treatments, I need my water, like retinol with vitamin C if you don't want to use Tret. You know, Dr. Fernandez really recommends that before and after microneedling. But some of the studies are on mice, so you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. There are some topical studies, though, that just show that, you know, vitamin A and vitamin C really enhance microneedling. But the main thing is just really hydrating the skin, protecting the skin, and kind of helping with the healing. But, you know, you don't have to fuss too much with cosmetic needling. And then I need to work on some content. I have a blog post I'm working on. So after the red light therapy, I'll probably pop on a PLLA sheet mask, and then I'll again just sunscreen until I do that routine later that I talked about. Okay, I think that is it. So I'm gonna wrap it up. I think I've already taken up a ton of your time. I'll make sure I didn't miss anything. A comparison would be great. Yeah, I can do like maybe a little mini dedicated video on Bradzeuticals versus AnteAge and other brands. Okay, you guys, thanks for hanging out with me. I need to get back in the habit of these lives, I swear. Anytime like I wait a little while and I don't do like a lot of videos and lives, like I just feel like such a weirdo. When I get on the live, I'm like, who am I? Like I feel like out of practice. Like I don't know what I'm doing with myself. So we will do another YouTube live next Wednesday. And then I have to decide if I want to do the Saturday lives in the group. I also got invited to do Amazon lives, but I feel like that would just be too much. Plus, I'm not really like about, I don't know. I like the idea of the Amazon lives, but I'm just not the type of person to, like, I'm not gonna have new products to push every time. So, like, that's just not really me. So I need to give it some thought. But we will be back for sure Wednesday here on YouTube. Let's keep it at that. Bye, Krista. Bye, Paulina. Bye, Cho. Thanks, you guys, for hanging out with me. I will see you next Wednesday here on YouTube. Thanks for bearing with me while I get comfortable in my skin. I sound like an alien trying to be human. Where's the puppy? Aww. I wish you guys could see I was like, what have the animals been doing while I'm on the live? The cat and the dog are sleeping next to each other. Pretty cute. Alright, bye, Lucy. Have a good Wednesday, you guys. I will talk to you all super soon. I'll see you next Wednesday here on YouTube. Okay, take